All right, today we're going to talk about one of the most explosive ideas in all of political history, and it comes from the philosopher John Locke. It's this: you, the people, have the right to overthrow your own government. Yeah, pretty wild stuff.
I mean, that's a pretty radical question, right? But that's the central problem John Locke really wanted to solve. He wasn't just, thinking out loud in some ivory tower. No, he was trying to build a rock-solid philosophical case for when rebellion isn't just an option, it's an absolute necessity.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The first thing you absolutely have to understand about Locke's most famous work, The Two Treatises of Government, is that it was not a history book. Not at all. It was basically a call to action.
Now, the timing here is everything. For centuries, pretty much everyone saw that it was published in 1689, right after England's Glorious Revolution, and they just assumed, oh, okay, Locke's just writing to justify a revolution that already happened. But, and this is a huge but, we now know he actually wrote most of it almost a decade before that, during a really intense conflict with King Charles II. So what does that mean? Well, the crucial point is this: Locke wasn't looking backwards, he was looking forward. He was basically writing a playbook for a revolution that hadn't happened yet. He was crafting the intellectual ammunition, giving people a framework they could use to challenge the king's power. And to do that, he had to take on the biggest idea of the time: the divine right of kings. This was the theory, pushed by guys like Sir Robert Filmer, that said a king's power comes straight from God, so you can't question it. But Locke, he comes back with this completely revolutionary idea. No! Legitimate power doesn't come from God. It comes from the consent of the governed. It comes from the people. So, to build this powerful argument from the ground up, Locke takes us all the way back to the beginning. I mean, before the beginning. He asks us to imagine a world with zero government, no laws, no rulers. He called this the state of nature.
And in this state of nature, there's no hierarchy. Nobody's above anyone else. Everyone is born perfectly free and perfectly equal. But, and this is key, this freedom isn't total chaos. It's actually governed by something Locke calls the law of nature, something he believed we can all figure out just by using our own reason.
And right here, this is the absolute core of his whole philosophy. According to Locke, in this state of nature, everyone has natural rights. They aren't gifts from a king. He said they're given by God. They're inalienable. What does that mean? It means you have them before any government even exists, and no government can ever legitimately take them away. His idea about property was especially huge. He basically said, look, the earth and all its resources are given to all of us, in common. But something becomes yours when you mix your labor with it. So think about it. If you go and pick an apple from a wild tree, the work you did, the labor of picking it, makes that apple your property. It's a really powerful idea connecting your effort directly to ownership. Okay, but this brings up a really important question, right? If this state of nature is so free and everyone has these rights, why on earth would anyone want to leave it? And that question leads us straight to Locke's famous idea of the social contract. I mean, it's a totally fair question. You've got perfect freedom, you've got your natural rights, so what's the catch? What's the problem here? Well, Locke's answer was that the state of nature is full of inconveniences. That's his word. Think about it. Without impartial judges or police, every single person has to be their own judge, jury, and executioner. And that leads to a total mess. Endless fights, people being biased, and just this constant feeling of insecurity where your life, your liberty, and your property are never, ever truly safe. So what do people do? They make a rational choice. They voluntarily agree to get together, form a community, and create a government. And the whole point of doing this, as Locke himself says, is to better protect the rights they already had in the first place. You're basically trading a little bit of your freedom for a whole lot more security.
And that is the social contract. It's a deal, a two-way street. The people agree to follow the laws, and they give up their individual right to punish others. And in return, the government has one job, and one job only: protect everyone's natural rights. That's it. So the power the government has is just on loan. It's conditional.
And that one word, conditional, is absolutely everything. It's the key that unlocks the ultimate failsafe in Locke's entire system. It's the idea that made him so incredibly dangerous to kings and tyrants everywhere. So, the obvious next question is, what if the government breaks the contract? What happens when it stops protecting your rights and starts stomping all over them instead? What happens when your protector becomes the biggest threat you have?
Well, for his time, Locke's answer to that question was nothing short of earth shattering. I mean, it completely flipped the entire relationship between the ruler and the ruled right on its head. He argued that the people have the right to rebellion. Simple as that. If the government breaks its side of the deal, the contract is void. The deal is off. And all that power that the people loaned to the government, it goes right back to them. Now, Locke was really clear this is a last resort. You don't do this over minor mistakes. But if a government becomes a tyranny, if it consistently and deliberately fails in its duty to protect your life, your liberty, and your property, then the people aren't just allowed to get rid of it. He argued they have an obligation to dissolve that government, even if it means using force. And as you can probably guess, this incredibly radical idea did not stay locked up in the 17th century. Oh no, it went on to become one of the most influential political ideas in all of modern history, shaping entire nations and sparking revolutions all over the globe.
And you can literally see its DNA written directly into history. Just read the American Declaration of Independence. It's practically echoing Locke's rights to life, liberty, and property. His arguments for a limited government, for separation of powers, that became the blueprint for the U.S. Constitution and for so many other democracies that came after. And so, Locke leaves us with this huge, enduring question, one that's just as relevant today as it was more than 300 years ago. His entire philosophy, when you boil it down, is about finding that delicate balance. It's a debate he kicked off that continues to shape our world, and it forces every single one of us to keep asking, where do we draw that line between the government's power and our own individual liberty?